It says it's now streaming live on YouTube.
Awesome.
Ready?
Yep.
Yes. Right about that. You're good to go.
Good evening. I would like to call the April 20th, 2020 regular meeting of the Fairview Park City Schools Board of Education to order. The time is now 6:34 p.m. And according to Board Policy 1.161, this meeting will be recorded and it is live streaming. Public access to recordings of all board meetings is available online in Board Docs and accessible through the district webpage. At this time, Mrs. Sperling, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Dalton,
Present.
Mr. Ruby,
Present.
Mr. Patella,
Present.
Mrs. Bolander,
Present.
Mrs. Hinkle.
Present.
Thank you. Would you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
For all.
Do I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
A motion.
A second?
Second.
Motion to approve tonight's agenda by Mrs. Bolander, second by Mr. Patella.
Mrs. Dalton,
Yes.
Mr. Ruby,
Yes.
Mr. Patella,
Yes.
Mrs. Bolander,
Yes.
Mrs. Hinkle.
Yes.
Thank you. Next on our agenda are reports. Dr. Wagner, do you have a superintendent report for us this evening?
Yes, Madam President, I do. There are 3 items on the superintendent's report for this evening. First, we have an update of our Family and Community Engagement Coordinator. Ms. Sullivan is here with us. And so I will click over to her PowerPoint and turn it over to her.
Oh, awesome. Cool. Good evening, everybody. So I hope everyone is doing well. Finishing my second year as the Family Engagement Coordinator. This year has been an awesome broadening year as far as community engagement and organizing of our programming is what I feel has been kind of the summary of this year. If we go to the first slide there, you're going to see those are the district activities and memberships or the organizations that I regularly participate in, attend meetings and help in any way that I can to keep our community and as far as the district attending those meetings. If you go to the next slide, those are the community activities and memberships. And I'm really happy to say that this year I more than doubled this organization or these groups. For instance, with the Senior Center and O'Neill's, really got a nice partnership going on with both of those community organizations, and our students are having a lot more opportunity to do a lot of their community service hours. And for instance, for the Senior Center this year, they needed 6 senior citizens that are still in their houses. They wanted to have someone to shovel snow for them. Luckily, I think it happened once this winter, but between the sports teams and then some other girls that just wanted to volunteer, we got all 6 citizens covered as far as having their areas snow shoveled when they needed them. So I was just really happy to follow through and be able to do something for the senior citizen like that. She said it was in such demand and we were able to get that covered. So with these partnerships, it's really been nice. It's a nice opening for our students as well as our staff to have more organizations involved with our schools. And the next slide, the big thing that is talked about throughout the whole state is the student wellness and success money that every school district receive. The list there is all the initiatives that have come down from the governor of things that schools can do with that money. The ones highlighted in red are the ones that seem to meet is what is needed in our district, and kind of the ones that I've been following through on doing for our school and our district. And if we go to the next slide, you're going to see how I came up with that conclusion. I'm not sure who's control. Oh, there. Thanks. And of course, after many meetings with teachers and counselors and administrators, I then went to the parents of our district and did a survey in December, and 169 parents responded. And they were able to go through and kind of see areas that they would like to see improvement in our district. And these first two are listed here. The parents thought that having some more mental health for their students. And with that, what we did is I worked with the counselors, and we were guinea pigging having Doug Winston come in and provide 3 hours a week of counseling with our schools. The counselors are the ones that they would contact the families and say, you know, your child could maybe do really well with some outside counseling of like a third party. And families were very receptive to this. And we got about a month in when, unfortunately, everything happened with our school. And within a month, we were very happy with what was happening. And Doug is available to us next year for a full day if that's the way we still want to go for next year. The second thing that we really targeted was after school programming for middle school students. And with Amanda and the library, with Jesse and with Daniel Danberg at the rec center, we very easily, I was happy. I thought this was really going to be hard to do, but very easily we brainstormed together and came up with some programs that we thought the middle school students would really like. Once we got some ideas of things we thought we could do, I also went out and surveyed the middle school students to say, hey, here's some possible programs we could have. Would you like these? And we were able to see which programs they really would like. We were surprised. The number one item that the students would like to see is cooking. So we're trying to experiment different ways, both at the Gemini and at the library, and then at the school for next year, of offering some cooking activities and different things. We did have all set to go. In fact, art club was going to start on March 19th. We were all set to get it going. The art teacher, Mrs. Claus, was so excited about it. And then we also had the yoga and the 3-on-3 basketball tournament all set up to go. So at least now we know we can get things set for next year and get some programming for the middle school students. The third push that's coming from all of this is that we are trying to work on aligning all our social emotional learning curriculum and programming. For instance, you know, at Gillis Suite, they're doing awesome with their conscious discipline, and they have an awesome PBIS programming, and I've continued to purchase supplies and support them and all. At our middle school and high school level, we are trying to improve on the PBIS and seeing areas that we can improve on our social emotional learning that's already embedded in our curriculum, or see what things we could do to add to our curriculum. For instance, in the middle school, through the OA teachers, seeing if there's some programming things that we could do for them. I know already this year, Mary Corey and I, we did the Red Flags curriculum with the 6th graders. The 5th grade, they were going to do theirs in May. And that is a little curriculum about depression. It's about 6 lessons. And Mary and I were able to get all 6 lessons into all 6 classes of the 6th grade. So all students in the 6th grade got through that curriculum. And the participation of the students and their discussions were awesome. we were very pleased with how that went. In fact, we were just talking today, the counselors, on some things we could do for 7th grade and 8th grade to kind of keep the discussion going with that. So I'm working with Melanie and various people to try and see where we can improve on our social emotional, especially with all that what's going on now. And when we come back for next year, we want to make sure we have a good, solid program and continue to support our students and our families as much as we can. On the next slide, it just gets into some of the other things that I've been doing throughout the year. Of course, I continue to have parent universities on those topics listed there: technology and drug awareness and vaping, secrets of academic success, continuing to help support the families. In fact, when this all started, that was the first thing that I did, along with a lot of support from everybody, but we made sure all of our families in the district have internet. We made sure all our families are fed and are continuing to be fed. I have a group of about 18 families that I email at least once a week. Some of them I even call just to follow up and make sure they're still doing well and they have everything that they need. And yeah, sometimes I get responses back, and I got a really nice letter back the other day from a mom just thanking me for always thinking of them and that right now they're doing fine. So I'm just really worried about those families right now, but it seems like they're all doing well. And then I continue to support our district strategic plan with reviewing programs. And that's one of the goals that we talked about in the last page. I just want to see what we can do to tighten up some of our curriculum and things as far as the social emotional learning and supporting that. And then, yes, really work on the transitioning of our students. That was a big push last year and this year. In fact, today with the counselors, we're still trying to figure out how we can still do like our 5th to 6th transition and pre-K to kindergarten and 8 to 9, especially now that we're remote, and how we can definitely support them distance learning. And so we're going to come up with some good programs with that. And organizing any of the programs around Halloween. We did a whole big week, the counselors and principals, on drug awareness and vaping, and we brought in programming from Improbable Players, and they did an amazing play for a skit for our middle school and then a skit for our high school. And I just think it was just a nice week. We had announcements, we had posters and all kinds of stuff to just really talk to students about drugs and alcohol and vaping, and a lot of classroom discussions, and then to bring in the Improbable Players to kind of just top it off. I thought it was just a wonderful way for a nice week for everybody. And yeah, I also get involved with small group counseling, and Gillis Suite family game nights have been a big hit this year. Last year with Matt and I, if we had like 75 people, which are still a lot, this year, the 3 that we had were over 100. One of them we counted was 165 people, parents and children showed up for family game night. So we really feel like that's a good place to get families and engage them, and they were really fun nights. So any questions from anybody?
I have a question. Just how often do you plan to survey the parents to just see if the needs change? Is that an annual survey?
Yeah, you know what? I don't want to survey our parents too much,
Right.
but I also want to make sure I am meeting the needs. When I started 1.5 years ago, I did a survey that September just to see, hey, what kind of parent universities would you like to meet? And then that's what I ran with last year. Now that I know what they want, maybe I'm sure in the fall, especially, and Dr. Weiner will know more when school starts back in the fall, what needs we're going to need to meet for our families. And so I'm sure we'll find a way to survey them and follow up with that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking the needs might change just based on everything that we're going through. So
Yes.
Thank you, Carrie, very much.
You're so welcome.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
have
for your time.
Other
I have
questions?
just a quick comment. I'm glad to hear you were talking about the emphasis on focusing on transitions and seeing how you can be supportive of that. I am interested in hearing more about that over the next couple of months to kind of see how you plugged in. So
Definitely. I will follow up with that for you.
thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that Carrie will be very involved in is really taking a look at the social emotional programming for 6 through 12. The conscious discipline covers K-5 really well, but it's not extendable up into the middle school and high school. So that's a big part of what we've been looking to expand and to improve upon. Regarding surveys, I know that Melanie has, I think, talked to you before about our use of Panorama. And it's a tool that we can use to provide nationally normed surveys that have a variety of different focus areas, already pre-constructed questions that are reliable and valid. And we'll be using a lot of those tools to survey. And I'm actually looking at some information from her directly to our students. So we'll be able to get really good data, we believe, going into the start of next school year with what their needs are going to be and how we might be able to fill those needs. Any other questions on Carrie's report? Hearing none. I also have Mike Matthews here, our Director of Operations, to give us a quick operations update. And Mike is going to go ahead and do a screen capture and share a document that he has. Mike, are you able to do that?
I am. Give me 1 second here. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, no, it won't let me share it because you're sharing yours.
Okay, I'll stop my share and you share yours now.
So I wanted to just go ahead and touch base on a few of the areas that are upcoming and have been going for us. The first one I wanted to touch base on, which I don't think we can even fathom the impact our food service has made. So I just threw some numbers up here so that you could see for yourself that as of in the month of March, that crew of people served over 1,400 meals, both breakfasts and lunches. To date in April, which obviously included some spring break days, we're already up to 1,875 meals. So, big round of applause to Diana and to all of those food service people who, they didn't even hesitate. When this all started going down, every one of those people in that staff, whether they're from Gillis or Park High School, they all said, whatever we need to do to help those kids. So I think that truly embodies what we've been embracing over these last couple months of, people just doing whatever they need to, and there's a lot of fear out there for people to even leave their homes. So for these guys to sacrifice of themselves for the kids and that need this, I think that's a pretty big deal. So that's food service kind of in a snapshot. We'll continue with our weekly distributions that we're doing now. That's really worked out well for our families. It's worked out well for our employees, reducing exposure for everyone all along that. So our plan, as the 2:00 announcement came on Governor DeWine, that we'll be continuing with a remote learning, we'll be continuing with that same service throughout the school year. So that 2:00 announcement by Governor DeWine that we will be remaining at the remote learning for the remainder of the year kind of sets us a little bit in motion. We've been kind of on a freeze on a lot of things for us. But with that, we already have some plans in place that, number one, for our transportation. So we have a lot of areas there that are on hold. We're getting a lot of buffer from the legislative branch in Ohio with all the requirements that our drivers have to do for physicals, for recertifications. There's a lot of dominoes that we'll have to tackle, but we can tackle those during the summer months, July and August, when things kind of settle in, hopefully a little bit more than what they are. Also, highway patrol inspections coming up. So just some more obstacles now that we know that we're out for sure, that we're going to start navigating our way around. I did want to make sure to mention how much we appreciate the support for that purchase of the new bus and that grant money that came through from the state, which is awesome. That bus is really going to help us, especially with transporting our children who need a lift for wheelchairs. Currently, we only have one in the district in the white van that we transport. So this will be great for us that if that van goes down for any reason, we can still transport all of our kids. So that's really a huge, huge win and a huge bonus for us. Moving on to buildings and grounds. So this is where we're going to start to see a little bit of change in the way we'll be delivering the summer cleaning schedule. So with the idea that we'll remain in remote learning, we will be going to a redeployment of our cleaner sweeper staff. We have to kind of balance this out a little bit with the idea that we're going to have a transition period where staff are going to have to come in, get their remaining materials they might need to fulfill the rest of the year in remote. But once we get past that kind of buffer zone, we're going to be bringing back our cleaner sweeper employees, and we're going to be starting up with their regular shift hours, but not necessarily at their regular times. And we'll start doing our deep clean for the summer, really taking close attention to all those protocols of 6 foot social distancing minimum. I've been working with our head custodians a little bit on this, and I think that we have a pretty good game plan going in that we can bring people back in, but still ensure that they'll be safe. So we'll just separate the building into different zones and know that a person will go into one area and they'll be working on their own accord. So we're pretty confident about that. So that's kind of a win for us that we can get in there early and get things going. We're also working on a transition plan to get our kindergarten teachers back to Parkview, probably sooner than we initially expected. We would have expected that to happen kind of mid-June. So Trish Moran and I are going to work on a plan now before we get it even into June to try to get those people moved out and get them a little bit longer stretch of period of time to be able to set their classrooms up and be ready to go, especially knowing that the fall is not going to look like a typical fall, most likely. So that's a big advantage for those guys. So we'll navigate our way through that as well. Head custodians have been actually in the buildings. We started them back up after spring break. So they're doing building checks at all the buildings. They're doing some project stuff. It's a rotational thing right now to kind of ease them back in. I think that they were very receptive to that. I think that they were ready to come back to work. So I think that that department as a whole is ready to kind of tackle on the next stage for us, which is obviously the big one, summer cleaning, putting that building back together. So moving on to the last area of construction. So this one has obviously been an area for us that took a really big hit. When we had our shutdown, we were 10 days away from completion of our project at the high school in phase 4. It really hit us pretty hard when the COVID-19 restrictions came down from OSHA. Our CMR, AM Higley, they took a 1-week shutdown as a company because they were just not confident that they were able to put safety plans in place that would protect all of their workers. So once they did that, we have some new safety plans for all of our contract workers. OSHA has revised some of their safety requirements. Initially, they had said there couldn't be any work conducted that required people to be within 6 feet of each other, which right now for us is pretty tough. We have a lot of projects, or 2-man projects. We have huge glass panes going up. We have columns, pillars, all that. The only way that we could have done that was with approved PPE, which is not available whatsoever. Obviously, that's going to first responders and medical professionals. So OSHA has revised some of that 6-foot requirement, and they're allowing those activities to go on as long as those people do have some form of PPE, whether it be the homemade masks or the other things you see people are using right now. So things are starting to kind of gear back up there. It is slow. We are not seeing the amount of contract workers back on site for a varying reasons. I think that part of it is there's just a little bit of that fear of going back to a workplace. So our new approximate completion date of that project is going to be May 12th. So, that kind of is what it is. We're just trying to roll with the punches there and get that building done, knowing that we would have already been living in it right now if it hadn't been for the pandemic. So, and that's kind of a nutshell for me. Like I said, I think the 2 o'clock announcement for us here today is really going to put a lot of things into motion here. As a cabinet, we'll be working through a lot of those logistical pieces of getting people in and out, working through the logistical things of getting some of our other employees back into that workplace and ensuring their safety. So any questions about anything?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a question more for Kim or for you. With the shutdown and the construction project, did that have any adverse effect on our construction budget? I can't anticipate that it would, but
No, so we have not seen anything from, we only have a contract with one person, and that's AM Higley. AM Higley holds the contract for themselves to the subcontractors. So our only point of business is strictly with AM Higley, and they have not made any reference to increase of funds or increase of costs due to that. There is some language in Ohio Revised Code that kind of protects us in this area. I'm certainly not an attorney, but Bill Gantz and I have talked through this quite a bit. And I don't anticipate that it will. But at this point, no.
okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other question?
Have there been any increase in, well, you might not know this one, but let's give it a shot. Any increase in cost because of the delay for construction?
No, there's actually not an increase in cost, because the only cost remaining at this point is labor costs. So one of the things that we actually took a relief on was with removing that April deadline to try to get us in for that first day after spring break. We basically told AM Higley there was no authorized overtime. In essence, virtually every phase we've seen overtime have to be authorized in order for us to meet the deadlines of those phasing. I think that we were very, the deadlines were pretty critical for us for phasing, knowing that we had to move people in and out. This final deadline for us, we kind of said at this point, we don't care if we get it back April 13th, April 15th, whatever we have to do to contain costs. So in actuality, the labor costs will go down compared to if we had to get it opened up for that April 14th date. Materials are pretty much all on site. There's only a few items that we are backlogged on because we had some companies do some shutdowns during this time period. Won't affect the cost of the product. It's just affecting the timeliness of it getting on site. Some of the custom made stuff.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Mr. Matthews?
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
It's I can't wait to get that place open up for you guys to see it. It's going to be
Sure.
awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Those kids are going to be in for a treat when we get them back.
Yeah, exciting.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You stop my share here. There you go.
And I'll bring mine back up. So the only other item that I had in the superintendent's report was a COVID-19 update. You've heard a lot of the information already. We received the information from the governor today that we were kind of anticipating. We knew that we expected that we would be shut down for the remainder of the school year. The administrative team has already, been planning for this. We have several documents already working on what some of the contingency plans will be, not just with the closing of school for this year, but also over the course of the summer, any programs that we have in the summer, how it will impact things going up into next fall, any activities or sports programs. All of that, I think a lot of that will depend on guidance that will come down the pipeline. But rest assured that we are in the process of building out plans to kind of address all of the different questions that are being raised by this kind of new normal. So I guess at this stage, other than the information that has been shared with you via email and personal phone calls and things like that, are there any questions regarding where we are right now?
I honestly just wanted to take a second and say thank you, because from my limited world of education, there are schools that are still trying to figure out how to do distance learning at this time. So
Yes.
the fact that we're now doing distance learning and also planning for next year is a step ahead from a lot of school districts. So bravo.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we really are a far ways ahead of most school districts from the perspective of our technological capabilities. The fact that Carrie was able to very quickly work with some of our local organizations and get internet capacity for every one of our students. We've been able to do break fix, very quickly. I have a stash in the office. I get an email from Matt Dunlap and I deploy the very next day, sometimes the very same day. So we're able to keep things up and running. Our teachers are doing a tremendous job, working with our students. Our principals are zoomed out. They are in department meetings, they are in grade level meetings, they are in collegial meetings in the county and throughout the state. Our teachers are also, in webinars and Zoom sessions with colleagues from across the state. We are really in a great place right now. And the planning that we've been doing, as you saw in my board update from last week, the opportunity to meet with Dr. Bill Daggett with the International Center for Leadership and Education in 2 different focus groups with administrators, superintendents from across the country, and to hear the things that they are doing. We are in a great position. We are very fortunate to be in Fairview Park. Any other questions?
Thank you, Bill. I just want to say too, I think you've been doing a great job communicating to everyone on your updates to the community, families. So very nice job on that.
Thank you. I'm not sure if today's communication has gone out yet. I had crafted just a video statement for parents, talking a little bit about today's announcement from the governor and then sharing some information as well. If that has not gone out to parents yet, then I imagine it probably will shortly.
Thank you.
And that concludes superintendent's report.
All right, Mrs. Sperling, do you have a treasurer report for us?
I do. I have a few things. I was going to talk about my financial report for February that was attached. Overall, as of in the end of February, we've seen a 2.99% increase in revenue, which is approximately $551,000. We have had an increase of $585,000 in property taxes. So then that increase is offset. We've had a slight decrease in some state funding. Our investment income is actually higher now than it was all of fiscal year 2019. So that's great. In our expenditures, we have seen a 16.2% increase, which is 2.2 million, which is expected. We have 2 extra payrolls as of the end of February. One was because we had the payroll in July, and then the way that the payrolls run in January and February, there's 1 extra in there. So that will work itself out in March. So we've had 2 extra payrolls. Another area is in personnel costs or professional services is that, as I explained last month, one of our school psychs is out on maternity leave this year. So we are paying a school psych through the ESC. So that's coming out of that. And then we also had to hire 1 interpreter from part-time to full-time this year, and then hire another part-time interpreter. So those are the reasons for the increases in that area. So overall, the expenses and the revenues are as expected for this year. And then, I don't know, does anyone have any questions on my report? Go ahead.
Kim, how much of that 16% increase in expenses actually is from the payroll? Do we
It's
know?
over, it's about 1.1 million.
Okay,
And then I also had the advance that I did in December of 900,000 instead of doing it at the end of the school year. So last year it was done at the end of the school year. So that's makes up for that too.
okay, thank you.
If there's nothing else, I go into where we stand now. Revenue wise, like I said before, our interest is going to be affected by the economy. We're not seeing it quite right now just because we have some longer term investments. But going forward and depending on how long this lasts, we will see a hit to our interest income, which we have built up. I mean, it's 365,000 right now, and which, like I said, is higher than last year for the whole school year. So that will be a hit next year, not so much this year. One area where we will see a hit this year is about $30,000 in rentals for the daycare. We charge them based on a revenue that they received, and it's a percentage. So we're expecting to have $30,000 less from the middle of March through June 30th. And then that will go on till next year, depending on what happens with the daycare and when it will reopen. Property taxes, we received all of our property taxes by the end of March. We will not get another property tax until July. So we're good this year, but going forward, our July payment most everyone's going to expect some kind of decrease just because of people unable to pay their property taxes. How much that will be, we don't know, because there is a lot of people that have an escrow that have already made their payments for their property taxes. These are just going to be more so the people that are unable to pay directly to the county. So we will not begin our next payment through July, but I do expect to see some kind of decrease there. And going forward with property taxes, this has been discussed amongst all the different treasurers, is when the county does the reappraisal. How's this all gonna affect our valuations? And again, that's not gonna be for a few more years, so we're okay going forward with that. Another unknown is state funding. Everyone believes that everything's gonna stay the same through this school year, but we don't know what we're gonna be receiving next year. The governor's saying that everyone needs to take a percentage decrease in their department budgets, and how that's gonna affect us. We haven't been told, and we probably won't know for a while either. So when I do present this information, in May, I have to do my 5-year forecast approval. There's still going to be some unknowns because I don't think we'll get any information from the state on our funding for next year by then. And then next year also our casino money, since the casinos are shut down. We've received everything we need to this year. Next year, it will probably be a lot less. We currently receive about $90,000 a year, and that's been steady since we started receiving that money. So that will take a hit go next year and probably going forward. So that's the revenue part. Like I said, there's not too much we're going to be taking this year, but next year we will see a hit in some of those areas. We will be getting federal funds. How much? Again, we don't know. It's going to be based on a percentage of our Title I funds. And we are told that's probably not going to be coming until the end of May. Those are going to be federal funds, not going into the general fund, separate fund. And they've given some guidance out on what we can spend it on. So Dr. Wagner and myself and the administrative team will need to meet and decide how we're going to spend those funds, but we do not know how much or what our percentage of our Title I funds we're going to be receiving for those.
Kim, can I interject here?
Yeah.
I'm just curious if this, from the guidance that you have received from the federal government so far, are we talking money that can probably be used for payroll, or something more like the student wellness funds that are really, really specific to a?
It's pretty open from what we've gotten so far, and that it can be used for payroll. It's trying to keep the schools operating and allow you to continue to pay your employees. So you can use it for payroll.
Okay. Thank you.
But that's just generic guidance that we received so far. I'm sure that we'll get more once the funds are distributed to us, which will be going through our CCIP funds. But like I said, no one has told us how much that's going to be yet. And it's kind of, at the end of May, that's kind of the end of the school year. So it's going to be more for anything that we can do in the summertime to help. So now as far as expenditures, this is where we're going to see most of our savings this year. One thing is that we are getting a refund from the Bureau of Workers' Comp, supposed to come by the end of April. It should be around $50,000. It's our premium that we paid in past year. So that will help us. That will go to the general fund. Another area is in fuel for the buses. We should save about $12,000 this year from till the end of the school year on bus fuel, which we get our fuel through City of Fairview Park. They bill us monthly, so that should be a savings about $12,000. One of our large ones is in substitutes. We currently only have one substitute teacher due to maternity leave. We have another substitute that you guys approved last month, but that's already an employee of our schools. So, but the one substitute, so we should save about $50,000 in subs for the rest of the school year. Utilities, we currently spend about $32,000 a month in utilities, but we still do have, the high school middle school project going on. So, electricity is still continuing there. Some electricity at Parkview, Gillis, just with the food service staff being in there, and then any work that's going to be happening in the schools. I do expect us to have some savings there. Obviously, we're not using that much water, but our biggest is in gas. So I would expect us to probably about $10,000 from the end of the school year we could save on all that. And then supplies. There's very little purchasing going on right now because not much is needed. We're very fortunate, like Dr. Wagner said, that we were prepared for online learning like we have been, unlike other schools that are now struggling to get more computers or just more technology things. The only thing that we've had to purchase is some more chargers for iPads for the students, because some are not working or they're losing them or they're breaking. And then, which has been less than $500 worth. And then another area is that we had to replace the server to allow the financial software package for anyone to be able to get into it. It's a VPN server from anywhere. It was not running well. Our old one wasn't running well. We're going to replace it next year, but we spent the $3,500 to replace it now so that we can get on Unis and continue to operate no matter where we are. So those are the only things that we pretty much had to do in expenses because of all this. So like I said, talking to other districts, we're very fortunate that we were prepared for all of this. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
No,
Is
I just
there-
wanted to, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't have a question. Again, I just wanted to thank you for putting together that analysis. It's really helpful to know.
I'm here for.
Is there anything that we can do to take advantage of the super low interest rates right now with our debt?
I'm waiting to hear. They kind of put a stop to reorganizing your debt at one time. Our Michael, who spoke with you before, is working on that for me, and he's going to give me a call when it's ready to go. But yes, I think we can. Last time him and I talked less than a month ago, we discussed it, and he was just going to prepare stuff for us and wait for the right timing for it. But the numbers I did receive today are looking really good. So hopefully soon that we'll have that to present to you guys.
Thank you, Kim. Great information. Next on our agenda are board reports. Does anyone have any updates? Any Zoom meetings happening for you? I just wanted to give an update on the LMS subcommittee meeting. I know Aaron's on a subcommittee. I don't know, is anyone else on a subcommittee for the LMS review? No?
No.
Okay, so the LMS team is going to be meeting, the whole committee is going to have a meeting, I believe next Thursday, Dr. Wagner? So from the
No,
last
it's this
time,
Thursday, isn't it?
it was originally scheduled for this Thursday, but Dr. Pope is going to be sending out communication that that's going to be next Thursday.
Okay.
So we're
Right.
going to reach out to Dr. Pope to make sure that we have communication going out to all the subcommittees and the members.
Yeah.
So the last time we got together at the end of February, we were divided into subcommittees that represented parents, students, teachers, community members. And we were assigned the task of reviewing the 10 to 12 different LMS systems that were identified. And we had created a rubric to go through and review those systems as best you could online and complete the rubric. And then we will be getting back together as a committee to review that information. So I just want to give an update on my subcommittee. We have 3 parents, a teacher, and a student. We've been meeting on Zoom every week. We just have a standard date and time that we meet. We go through 2 to 3 LMS systems each week when we get together. I think it works out really well because we're able to share the screen, and the teacher has been logging on to the systems in advance and creating an account and showing us how information can be loaded so we can see that from the perspective of the student. And as often as we can, we also try to log in as a student. So the teacher and student view. So we've been going through those. We do homework in advance of the meetings. We complete the rubric together. I believe we're down to our last 3 systems to review this week, and then we'll be able to report that out. So it's been working very well for us. The meetings usually last anywhere from, I would say, 1 to 2 hours, depending on the system that we've been reviewing. But that's one way that we've been doing it. I know some subcommittees haven't met yet. I just want to say that if you haven't met, I think it's probably a lot to try and do in one meeting, unless you've been doing a lot of homework in advance for the subcommittees. But we're going to get some information from Dr. Pope out to everyone. But again, we should be having a touch base meeting for the whole committee sometime next week. So we're moving on with that, carrying on. Any other updates on other committees?
I just wanted to throw out a reminder from a policies perspective that there is a bundle of new policies floating around your inbox if you haven't already looked at them.
Yeah.
They will be coming.
And I just wanted to say the community council meeting obviously was canceled, but they did extend the Citizen of the Year application. I believe I sent that, I did forward that information to everyone. So if you're continuing to get updates from your committee, even updates about the meetings being postponed, we can share those with each other so we're made aware of what's still happening and what's not happening. Next on our agenda, we have an opportunity for public comments, and this would be public comments on agenda items only. We've asked community members to submit their comments to us in advance. And Dr. Wagner, do you have any comments to read at this time?
There's only one comment specific to the board, and that is one of the non-agenda item comments. So that
Okay.
session.
Okay. Hearing no public comments, then we're on to our consent agenda. So this evening, our consent agenda contains one set of meeting minutes.
Sorry, I didn't edit this.
That's okay.
I'm
I
gonna-
know there's one set of meeting minutes. We're going to update that right now.
There's no teaching and learning. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
There's one teaching and learning.
Is there one under
Yeah.
there? Is it
There's 2 teaching and learning.
2 teaching and
Two,
learning?
yeah.
I apologize.
Two
2 business,
business.
no finance,
2.
2 finance.
Yeah, 2 finance.
My apologies.
That's okay.
There we go.
So this evening, our consent agenda contains one set of meeting minutes, 2 items under teaching and learning, 7 items under human resources, 2 items under business, and 2 items under finance. Do I have a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? I hope I got this correct with the motion there. So a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda this evening by Mr. Ruby and second by Mr. Patala.
You're muted, Kim.
Sorry. Mrs. Dalton,
Yes.
Mr. Ruby,
Yes.
Mr. Patella,
Yes.
Mrs. Bolander,
Yes.
Mrs. Hinkle.
Yes.
And that takes us down to the public comment non-agenda items. Dr. Wagner, could you read those for us?
Yes, Melissa Hilly, 4239 West 211th Street, wrote, I'd like to take a moment to thank our Board of Education administrators, teachers, and support staff for all they've done for our students, families, and community during this extended closure and pandemic. They've been prepared and had a plan in place for our students to make the transition to remote learning a smooth one. Our district's communication has been excellent, and they are constantly reaching out to help others and also looking for feedback along the way to make improvements during this difficult situation. Thank you for your support during this stressful and challenging time. With gratitude, Melissa Hilly.
Thank you, Melissa.
There was one additional comment that was submitted. It isn't specifically public comment from Mr. Krivak regarding your appointment of him as the next principal of Gillis Sweet, if you'd like me to read that at this time.
Please do.
It indicates, he states, I'm very pleased and excited to have been appointed to the position of principal at Gillis Sweet Elementary School at the Board of Education meeting this evening. Our school's students, staff, and community have been a very important part of my life during the last 5 years. I look forward to assuming the leadership responsibilities from our principal, Mrs. Barb Brady. She's been a very successful leader and a great mentor to me. I extend my very best wishes to her and her husband as they continue their journey together in Columbus. It is with a great deal of anticipation and excitement that I accept this opportunity and look forward to building upon the many successes that Gillis Sweet has worked together to achieve, and look forward to continuing to be an important part of the Gillis Sweet family of Fairview Park.
Thank you. And I just want to say congratulations, Mr. Krivak.
Yes, congratulations.
Well, congratulations. Well deserved. Excited to have him there.
Yeah, a lot of positive comments about him moving into that position.
Mhm.
So I believe that's everything on our agenda. We're ready to make a motion to adjourn this evening.
I move to adjourn.
A second. Motion to adjourn this evening's meeting by Mr. Ruby, second by Mr. Batalla.
Mrs. Dalton,
Yes.
Mr. Ruby,
Yes.
Mr. Patella,
Yes.
Mrs. Bolander,
Yes.
Mrs. Hinkle.
Yes.
And the time is 7:24 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good to see you.